Who the fuck is Chaplin? That's a good place to start. How's it going, everyone? This is the first ever Chaplin sessions. You probably don't know who I am, and that's okay. I'm not going to pretend to be famous. I have no ego to attend to. This isn't the reason I'm doing this. The reason I'm doing this, and I'll go into who I am and what I do in a second, but the reason I want to put this out there and why I've started it, after about 7 months of procrastination and wondering whether I should do this, when's the right time, and waiting for that right time, I finally sat here to do it because last year I found out the hard way that I have CPTSD, and it was brutal. One of the things that really didn't help was the feeling of being alone in what I had. This isn't going to be a podcast about CPTSD, but I'm going to chance my hand at this. I think there's a lot of people out there that feel isolated and alone with their problems. Now, I'm not here to fix them. I can't. I'm not qualified. I only have my experience to lean into, but I can be 20 minutes every week that you can just tune into and just hang out, put the bags of life down, and I'll just talk about whatever, and that will be the podcast. That is what the Chaplin sessions are going to be. It's really amazing, actually, to think that I'm blessed with the amount of people that care for me around me. Like I'm just blessed. But that didn't seem to cut through the feeling of being alone. Like it didn't cut through it. And I think that was partly because with that condition particularly, and depression, because they tagged PDD on, which is persistent depressive disorder, that was added on to it. But the thing is, you just feel like a few things, I think, from my experience. I think, first of all, you don't want to talk about it all the time because you don't want to be that person that rocks up to go for a beer or something, and you know, people look at you and go, "Oh, like Chaplin's coming." You don't want to be that person. So you kind of have this, I didn't want to fill the airwaves with my issues. So that was one thing. But the second thing, and this goes for, I think, the CPTSD more, the trauma, and the effects that it has on you as a condition, they're quite unique. And if you haven't experienced those things, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody by saying this, because I say this with love and respect, but before I got diagnosed, I'll say it like that, I would have no way of understanding the severity of somebody talking about their condition, because it's so sneaky, it's so complex, and it's so bizarre the way it manifests. I mean, this idea that you could be walking your kids to school and you get a hit of adrenaline from nowhere, like that is crazy to deal with. At one point in my experience, I was getting about 4 or 5 of those a day, and that's when I had to take time out and really try and understand and figure out what was going on, because it just simply wasn't manageable. Now, personally, I found solace and peace of mind, and I was fortunate enough to A, find the right person, and B, be able to afford, to some degree, private therapy. And trauma-informed therapy for me has really helped unpack this. And more importantly, I think, has helped me understand it, because that was the fear. I was like, what's happening? What's happening to me? And with depression, I didn't know. I didn't know that I was depressed. That's how long it's been going on for. And the doctor that diagnosed me, or the psychiatrist, he, I challenged it. I said, well, no, I don't feel depressed. I feel a sense of mourning. Like, I feel sad for something, like I've lost something. And that, I think, still may be true. And he just asked me, well, define the difference between the two. And I couldn't. I couldn't do it. So he wrote persistent depressive disorder down. He also asked me, how many times am I happy? And at the time, it wasn't much, which is bizarre because on paper, I have a relatively good life. And it didn't seem to matter. I'll go more into this in the future about how it started and why it kind of started surfacing. I don't want to fill this whole podcast with it, but that's essentially why I'm doing it. It's funny because I don't know what compelled me. I was like, just get on and do it. Just do it. And I have those moments. But this one, I did. I want to be the thing that I was looking for in my darkest places. And that doesn't mean somebody who talks about this all the time. It was just a voice, something that I could connect to. And if this reaches you and it gets out there, then I can tell you that I've personally overcome a lot of insecurity and imposter syndrome just to upload this, let alone record it. So thank you if you are checking this out. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be here every week with the podcast. I've made that very clear to myself. I'm going to show up every week. Because the last podcast I did, This is Rebellion, really helped people. I still don't really understand how, but then I don't think that's my thing, right? That's not my question to answer. I've had people come down from other parts of the UK to see the coffee shop and meet me, which is really bizarre and really unexpected. I didn't realize that This is Rebellion was reaching as many people as it was and helping so many people. So I have to do this because I promised myself that once I'm able to, I'm just going to be myself and put this out there again. And we are here. Today is the day. That's why. Now, who am I? I think we can get into that now. I am Chaplin. It's a pen name that was given to me by my grandmother. I'm Birmingham born. I'm a Brummie. I now live in North Cornwall. I have a coffee shop called House of Chaplin and a print studio. And I've just started a brand, a clothing brand called Seven Hope Studio, which is finally up and out there. So whilst I'm here, I need a topic. And I think that topic's going to be imposter syndrome, as I'm doing the first one. Imposter syndrome is a really sneaky little beast. And what I mean by that is it isn't always obvious. My brain will come up with 1,000 things, reasons not to do something that I want to do. And it will give me one or two reasons, really good reasons, as to why I should do something that I want to do. And that balance is so bizarre, isn't it? Dealing with that, I know I'm not the only one, but dealing with that on a daily basis is, I've tried to learn how to quieten that down a little bit and to bring it down to about 400 reasons I shouldn't do something, and maybe up to about 4 or 5 reasons I should. But I really value the reasons that I should do something. And I think the battle is to try and bury the reasons not to do something. If you feel compelled to do something like a podcast or printing t-shirts, I started that thing. I had no clue what I was doing. I hadn't a clue. I was compelled to buy the gear. I did secondhand, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And my first job, my first client was Cornwall Council. And thinking back to that, I managed to put it out my ass. Like it actually looked good, but my God, I don't know how I did it because it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. And now 4 years in, I'm moving on to more technical things, which pose a similar kind of challenge in a way. And those 400 reasons, they come up. I was designing today at home for a t-shirt I'm bringing out next week. And it's got this, it was inspired by Ralph Steadman's Fear and Loathing imagery, where they're sitting in the car, Hunter S. Thompson and Ralph Steadman. It was the front cover to the book, and I think it's a very famous picture. I wanted to do a devil and an angel sitting in a car together, and I wanted it to feel like an inked drawing. And I just didn't want to start it because I just didn't feel like I had it in me to do it. And it's done. It took me a day to be happy with it, but I'm finally happy with it, and I've just burnt the screens for it. So I'm really excited about that. I think the reason I'm bringing that up is because it's about pushing through. It's about ignoring that noise and just starting. And even when I was doing it, I was thinking, oh no, this ain't right. This ain't right. And constantly questioning things. And I've been drawing since I was, I don't know, since I can remember holding a pencil, you know? And it's crazy to think that that still goes on to the level it does. Now I could just sit at home and let it be destructive and stop me from doing anything, but I'm not going to. Now I've got the challenge of putting those 3 screens together on my manual press and printing them, which is tomorrow's worry. But I'm going to crack on anyway. But I do have those 400 voices going, you can't do that. If you do that, people will think you're stupid, or it's an angel and devil. People might think it's blasphemy, or they may misunderstand. But the imagery isn't at all like that. The concept for the piece is they're driving together through the desert. The devil's got a beer in his hand and he's driving the car with a cigarette in the other. And the angel's a bit battered and bruised, and he's got his hand on the devil's shoulder. And I think that's quite significant for me because it feels like through everything I've been through, compassion has been the leading thing that has broken down the walls to this thing. And it really has made a difference. And that's what that image says to me, is still having compassion for the darker parts of yourself. And I'm not saying celebrate them. I'm just saying don't fight them, don't hate them, work with them. And if you need to, I guess, quieten them down would be the way to approach it. Because because my past in Birmingham isn't all roses, and it isn't all sunshine and happy days. It was pretty brutal. I've carried that my whole life without really understanding the weight of it and understanding the kind of how much that has had a profound effect on me in the now. And it's taken almost a year now, I think maybe over a year, for me to be able to sit here and talk to a camera and put this out there. I am really cautious of giving advice because I know that everybody is in a different situation, at different stages, and having different things going on in life. Like, I can't speak and I won't speak with authority on these things because that simply won't help. And it isn't who I am. It's not what I'm about. So this podcast is going to be like I think me sitting here is just going to be just chatting, chewing the fat, and just seeing how things go. And to finish off, there was a story that I read about, which is pretty relevant to imposter syndrome as a subject matter. And it really blew my mind because everyone knows the Sistine Chapel and the ceiling and the kind of alfresco paintwork that Michelangelo did. It's one of the most famous and celebrated Renaissance era pieces of work. And I didn't realize the story behind it. It's quite dark, and I'm surprised that there's not been a movie, or if there is, I haven't heard about it. But Michelangelo was a sculptor. He worked with stone, and was the best, I think, probably the best of his time. There was a guy who was really jealous of him called Donato Bramante, and he worked for the Pope, and he wanted to ruin Michelangelo's career. First of all, he got him to stop these arches that he was working on for the Pope. The story goes that he told the Pope that it would be like bad luck if he built a tomb as a reigning Pope. Essentially made Michelangelo unemployed, and that wasn't enough for him. He wanted to humiliate him, so he commissioned him to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. And Michelangelo famously said, "I'm not a painter." It took 4 years to finish this thing, and he was hanging from a very questionable scaffolding back in the day, paint dripping all over him. I can't imagine how brutal it was and would have been. He wrote a poem about this time. I think about that whenever I'm having an issue like today, where I'm worried about taking a pen to paper or to an iPad screen. And I just think, yeah, well, it's not that bad, is it? It's funny, isn't it? How we weigh up these things. But the man got through it and created one of the greatest pieces of Renaissance work in history. So I can design a t-shirt, right? You know, whatever you do, people, don't be a Donato Bramante. And that's if I'm getting the name right. Don't be that. Don't be someone who's manipulating someone else and trying to just play sneaky games to get one over. It's boring, man. And I think also it's actually damaging to who you are as a person. So if you can avoid that, that'd be good. That'd be really good for everyone. So I've got Michelangelo's poem up here, and I'm just going to read it to end the podcast. The first one, and I don't think he named it. It was just words he wrote, but here we go. I've already grown a goiter from this torture, hunched up here like a cat in Lombardy, or anywhere else where the stagnant waters poison. My stomach's squashed under my chin, my beard's pointing at heaven, my brain's crushed in a casket, my breast twists like a harpy's. My brush above me all the time dribbles paint, so my face makes a fine floor for droppings. My haunches are grinding into my guts. My poor ass strains to work as a counterweight. Every gesture I make is blind and aimless. My skin hangs loose below me. My spine's all knotted from folding over itself. I'm bent taut as a Syrian bow. Because I'm stuck like this, my thoughts are crazy, perfidious tripe. Anyone shoots badly through a crooked blowpipe. My painting is dead. Defend it for me, Giovanni. Protect my honor. I am not in the right place. I am not a painter. That's just, it's pretty heavy, isn't it? And imagine 4 years feeling that way. I feel sad when I read that. But I must also feel, I guess, happy or proud or humbled by the fact that regardless, the man carried on. It is a beautiful piece of history. My friend told me that he probably wasn't a nice bloke. That the Ninja Turtle may be more of an affable Michelangelo. But yeah, those words, pretty blowing. Anyway, on that note, I think it's time that I leave you this week, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Before you tell anybody about it, let this go a little bit. Let me get used to it. Take it easy and look after yourself. Much love.